It's your home of the Pens and the best Pens coverage, 105.9 The X. Travis with you, and I don't know about you, but my blood is boiling after last night's Game 5 between the Penguins and Rangers, and there's nobody I'd rather talk through my feelings with than the old 2-9er, Phil Bourque, brought to you this afternoon by the Center for Hair Restoration, Armstrong and Keystone Basement Systems, and Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Bourque, good afternoon, and I'm just going to cut right to it. So we've heard today there's not going to be any extra conversation, any discipline handed out to Jacob Trouba. So was that a dirty and intentional play in your head, or is that just something as Pens fans we get upset about because it's Sidney Crosby and, it just happens?
Well, Trev, first of all, great to be with you. Second of all, to get to your question, man, I have watched this over and over and over again. And is it a high hit? Is it a hit to the head? Absolutely. Is it a hit that should have been penalized? Absolutely. And also, I think the referees should be smart enough to read the room, so to speak. Read the game. Here's a guy, first shift of the game, that went out and tried to take Jake Gensel's head off with an elbow, okay?
Right.
Later in the game, he goes high on Sidney Crosby. Now, I didn't think it was a headshot the way it was to Jake Gensel. I didn't think it was a chicken wing hanging out there and just clipping the head of Sidney Crosby. I've seen a few angles, but I haven't seen an angle where I want to say, wow, he was going right after his head there. So with that being said, what concerns me the most is the response of the Penguins, or the lack thereof, not only towards Jacob Trouba, but what happened in that 2 minutes and 40 some odd seconds where they just seemed to completely go right down the crapper as far as their play. It doesn't make sense. This is a veteran group that should know how to respond when something like that happens. Not only respond to Jacob Trouba, but more importantly, respond to the rest of the game when you had a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, and it seems like every game in this series, I'll even say starting with Game 3, I feel like the Penguins were the beneficiaries of being on some insane runs, just scoring a crazy amount of goals, having all the pressure for, 5-6 minutes at a time, putting 3 or 4 in, and now we're the victims of that. And I was happy to see Jake Gensel respond with that goal, but it seems like both teams have had their ups and downs with just getting into a funk for 3 or 4 minutes, and the other team converts 2 or 3 times. It's crazy to see that both teams have done that now.
It is crazy. And so it's almost impossible to get a read on this series on what team we're seeing night in and night out. It's just so wildly inconsistent. And you're right, the Penguins have that 4-1 lead and they blow that because they blink. And then what happened in an elimination game, I don't know what to think anymore. I really don't. I'm coming on your show and you're like, oh, let's get Bourque on. He'll figure everything out. Listen, anybody who thinks they have this figured out is a liar. Liar. Liar, because they don't. Because it's just so wild how we have these back and forth swings of great play, great goaltending, and then crappy play and not so good goaltending.
Well, you talk about figuring things out. The 2 games in New York to start the series kind of out of it. Since then, I feel like the Penguins have had a relatively easy time. Well, I wouldn't say easy, but Igor Shesterkin is breakable. And even last night, Bourque, I didn't think he was, as sterling as he would have been early in the series. So what are the Penguins doing now that they weren't early in the series? And will that continue? Because I don't feel like he found his game last night, even though the Rangers won.
I concur. Absolutely. He looked shaky at best. Guessing, the goal that Jake Gensel scored, the first one there where he banked in off his skate. If Shesterkin's on, that never happens to a guy like that, but he's not on. And I think the Penguins continue to exploit not only his shortcomings in his game, but also that he doesn't have the swagger and the confidence that he had, especially in the last 3 games of the regular season. So with that being said, when they simplify the game, they get pucks at his feet, pass off the pad or shot off the pad, whatever you want to call it, lots of traffic in front, because he's not seeing the puck as clear as he had in the past.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that continues for the rest of this series for sure. Bourque, we've had the lovely experience of watching Evgeny Malkin through all phases of his career. He's got to be one of the most unique superstars out there. I mean, we just look at last night. He had a few great assists last night, right? But you also see him get wild in the third period. And we've seen both versions of angry Evgeny Malkin, right? You have the Evgeny Malkin that gets angry and takes over a game, and you have the Evgeny Malkin that gets angry and kind of goes away from his game and, starts taking penalties like he did in the third period. Just such a polarizing game with him last night. So whether or not Sidney Crosby's in the lineup for the rest of this series, I feel like all eyes are going to be on him tomorrow. So what does he need to do to be the dominant Gino and not the, liability Gino that always ends up in the box?
Tell you what, man, you're just bang on in his description. You're right. You think about all the other great players in the league. They are not as wildly, and you use the word inconsistent is a word to use. Polarizing, it's a word to use. Does things that make you want to rip the hair right out of your head, but also does other things that make you jump out of your seat and fist pump for 15 seconds. I mean, I can't think of another player like this. So to get to your question, yes, if Sid can't go in game number 6 on home ice, elimination game again, 71 has to bring it. He has to be the best player on the ice. He has to take the bull by the horns and say, I don't care what the Rangers are going to do. I don't care what Shesterkin's going to do. This is my game. I'm dictating the terms, and we are going to win this game. Anybody who's not in the battle, I'm going to grab you by the scruff of the neck and drag you into the battle. To get to the X's and O's, it has to be discipline. I mean, the penalty he took against Rooney, come on, man, it's Kevin Rooney. He stuck you in like a big carp and stuck the hook in your mouth. Evgeny Malkin's got to be smarter than that, as well as his play. Play north, get to the net. Every shot you take, hit the net. Don't let Shesterkin off the hook by missing the net. He's a guy that when he's dialed in, he can be the difference maker that we need.
Well, hopefully he is, and just something that's in the back of my mind. There's a potential that tomorrow could be Evgeny Malkin's last home game in Pittsburgh. I mean, we don't know how things are going to pan out, and the series is on our side, but just something that's in the back of my mind. We're talking to Phil Bourque here on your home of the Pens and the best Pens coverage at 105.9 The X. And Bourque, we talked about secondary scoring last week. Since then, I think we found some, which is good. But two guys I think have taken a lot of heat on Penguins' Twitter, social media, which we know is always rabid, are Brian Boyle and Jeff Carter. And Jeff has had a couple of points throughout this series, so maybe we take him out. But what do you say? We know these guys have had tremendous careers. They've battled back from a lot. They know what to do. When they struggle in a playoff series like this, what do you say to a guy like that? Or is it just, hope that he figures things out and kind of keeps plugging away because he is that veteran that's done it for so long?
Very valid question. You're right. And that's a tough one for Mike Sullivan. If I knew Mike Sullivan's relationship with Jeff Carter a little bit more intimately, I could probably give you a better answer. I don't think there's anything wrong with maybe just calling him in and saying, you okay? Okay. Well, as long as you're 100% healthy, I need a lot more out of you, Cartsy. I just need more out of you. I know it's there. Guys are looking at you, 2-time cup winner. I need more out of you. And same with Boylan, and Jeff Carter, that might have been the worst I've seen him play as a Pittsburgh Penguin. I'm sorry. It pains me to say that because he's one of my favorite players and he can be such a difference maker. But the way that Trouba just walked him, that's not Jeff Carter. That's not the compete level from Jeff Carter. And same as Brian Boyle. Like if Brian Boyle is talking about, I want this more than anything. I want to win a cup more than anything. Well, Boiler, you didn't show me that in game number 5. So I want him to bring it. I want him chewing thunder and crapping lightning, man. I want to see it. I want to see more of a passion. It's there. I know it's there. And I know it can't be there all the time, but I have that same conversation with him. You okay? You 100%? If you are, I need a lot more from you.
Hopefully we get that from both those guys tomorrow. And we talked specifics, but let's simplify it here, Bourque. All the Penguins need to do is win a home game tomorrow, Game 6 against the Rangers, to advance to Round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in quite a while. So what is your message to everybody making the trip to PPG Paints Arena for Game 6?
For the fans, you got to bring it, man. You thought you brought it in games 3 and 4. You got to bring it. You got to bring it like you've never brought it before. Like there's no tomorrow, that you can be a difference maker. So if you're one of those fans that, I don't really cheer that loud, get out of your comfort zone because it's an absolute fact how much of a difference maker the fans were in games 3 and 4. Whether it's affecting the referees, whether it's affecting Igor Shesterkin, whether it's affecting Louis Domingue, the team feels the energy in the building and you're like another man on the ice.
Listen, I texted Abby after Game 5, late, and we're going to be in attendance together on Friday, and I just told her we're out for blood, all capital letters, so I totally feel it. Bourque, I appreciate it. I know you haven't been in the booth the last few games. Hopefully we get you back in there, and hopefully it's a raucous environment for Game 6, and I appreciate your time as always.
All right, Trev, love talking hockey with you, and like always, this was good hockey talk.
It always is, and you heard the man. If you're going to Game 6 tomorrow at PPG Paints Arena, be loud, be crazy. you do make an effect on the game. That was Phil Bourque, brought to you this afternoon by the Center for Hair Restoration, Armstrong and Keystone Basement Systems, and Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. It's your home of the Pens and the best Pens coverage, 105.9 The X.